The Niners are bringing back cornerback Jason Verrett on a one-year contract. We're going to talk about that on today's show. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Less than 1,400 people away from a monster milestone on the Niners Report as we approach 60,000 subscribers. During the season, we have you covered. Throughout free agency and the NFL draft, we've been pushing out content like crazy. Free daily videos covering the Niners, and when breaking news happens, we work swiftly here at Chat Sports to keep you up to date with all things San Fran Cisco. So make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below, and let's talk about Jason Verrett's return. All right, so the news of the day, cornerback Jason Verrett, a former first-round pick, coming back to the San Francisco 49ers, signing a one-year contract in free agency, coming off that torn ACL. You're watching the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Sr. So last year in 2021, only one game played for Verrett. It was in that season opener against the Detroit Lions, suffered a torn ACL, and really injuries for him have been the big storyline of his career. Former first-round pick in 2014 out of TCU, 25th overall to, at the time, the San Diego Chargers. Got off to a really good start in his NFL career, but over time, he's battled so many injuries, from a torn Achilles to a torn rotator cuff. In 2021, a torn ACL. The list goes on and on and on. But when he's on the field, he's a pretty solid player. And we saw that in 2020 when he was healthy for a 13-game sample size. He was good. He was honestly one of the better cornerbacks out there. After a little bit of a rough start for the San Francisco 49ers, he was able to compile 7 pass breakups, 60 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and his Pro Football Focus grades that year were very good. Now, as an indication as to how good he was, league average is about 70% for some of these Pro Football Focus grades. And I don't always beat the drum with analytics. Sometimes I think it's useful to use that information, and sometimes numbers don't tell the whole story. But in coverage, Verrett was very solid and a very reliable cornerback on the outside. Overall grade in 2020 of 77.5. 76 coverage grade. Against the run, solid, 76.2. Here's really the big number, though. 1 touchdown allowed in coverage, and he was arguably the team's #1 cornerback that year, so he was targeted often. And the fact that he only gave up 1 touchdown in coverage is pretty impressive considering the volume of targets that he had to defend against going up against some of the top wide receivers in the NFL, especially a loaded wide receiver division that year in the NFC West, and that certainly remains to be the case. Don't expect Jason Verrett to be a starter, and we'll talk about that coming up here in just a few moments. This is purely a depth signing for the Niners, and following the NFL draft, I happen to really like it if he can stay healthy, and it's going to be worth little money on that one-year contract. Right now, before we start to unpack the rest of all of this, with Verrett coming back to the Bay, I want to hear from the faithful. Do you actually like the signing, or not because he's off injured? Type L for like, D for dislike. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, use that opportunity at your disposal and scroll on down and get your votes in. Now, as I talked about, in years past, Verrett has been the #1 cornerback on this team, and for a while, he was that guy with the Chargers when he was actually able to stay on the field and stay healthy. But with where the Niners are at right now, this is strictly a depth signing, and I like it for a couple of reasons. He's younger than a Josh Norman and a Drake Kirkpatrick, and overall, he's a much better player than both of those guys were last year when the Niners had to go to the emergency phone line and try to bring in any cornerback after the injury originally to Jason Verrett. Now, Norman was good with punching the football out on those Peanut Tillman punches, but he wasn't good in coverage, and Drake Kirkpatrick was Drake Kirkpatrick. He was awful. Like, totally washed. And when you look at the Niners' cornerback depth chart and defensive back depth chart, this is a very deep positional group right now. Now, there are going to be competitions had in training camp, and this is going to be an intriguing training camp battle to see where everything kind of falls in this defensive secondary. But as of right now, you have some really good talent and some really good depth, especially after the 2022 NFL draft. So right now, let's take a flyer. Let's take a swing at what this cornerback and defensive back depth chart will be. You signed Charvarius Ward. He's making around $14 million. He's going to be your number one overall cornerback, and it's my hope that he goes from one side of the line of scrimmage to the other to cover some of the best opposing wide receivers out there. So he's going to be your cornerback one. As for who is going to be cornerback two, it could be a competition between Ambry Thomas and Jason Verrett. With what I saw in the final month of the season, including the playoffs, I think it's Ambry Thomas's job to lose because he has the pedigree, a former third-round pick last year out of Michigan, and with how he played at the end of the year and in the playoffs, I think that he has the talent to be that number two corner. If not, you can go Emmanuel Mosley or Jason Verrett. If Thomas does win that gig, then you slide Emmanuel Mosley into that slot. The safety positions are going to be interesting. You know that Jimmy Ward is penciled in at one of those safety spots. As of right now, because the Niners have not re-signed Jaquiski Tartt or made any other moves at safety, I would say that Talanoa Hufanga is going to start opposite of Jimmy Ward. Now, we'll see what happens with Tarvarius Moore coming off that torn Achilles. The Niners really like him. But then you're looking at Diamador Lenore as another backup cornerback who can play outside. I think the Niners like him more so in the slot. You go after Sam Womack in the draft, and he has excellent ball skills. Tariq Castro-Fields, selected out of Penn State in the 6th round. He has 4.3 speed, and he's long. So going into the offseason, a lot of questions about the secondary. But you combine the secondary with the Niners' pass rush and the depth along the defensive line, this has the makings to be a very solid defense under DeMeco Ryans here in 2022. The injury misfortune for Verrett. It has been unfortunate. One-time Pro Bowler, a former first-round pick. When he's right, really good corner. Let's hope that he can stay healthy. And to do that, make sure you hit that thumbs-up icon and like the video to hope and wish Verrett better luck in terms of his injury history. You can watch the 49ers Report on a variety of platforms, on YouTube as well as Rumble and on Newsbreak, but let's focus on Rumble here, a big supporter and partner of what we do here at Chat Sports. Sometimes on Rumble, we put up free, additional, exclusive content. Sometimes we only go live on the Rumble app, and over on Rumble, free and uncensored content. And sometimes I just like to let my feelings be known and curse a little bit. I will not get canceled out on Rumble. In addition to 49ers Report content, sports, news, politics, tech, and business. And we continue to grow to the platforms that you as the viewers use. So make sure you give us a follow and follow everything that we're doing here on the channel by going to rumble.com/49erstv. When you plug in that link, you just hit that green follow button on the app. Another reason why I like Verrett coming back to the Bay. Everybody raves about him as a leader. When he went down with that torn ACL, Shanahan said after that Lions game, I'm heartbroken for him because I love JV. He brings a lot to the table to our locker room, and now he can really help tutor and teach some of the young DBs on this roster that the Niners selected. Now, overall in the NFL draft, San Francisco went with Drake Jackson, the edge rusher out of USC. Ty Davis-Price, running back out of LSU in round 3. A little bit of a reach there, but turn on the tape, man. He's a really physical runner and is able to hit the hole very, very quickly and dissect where those holes are, attack it. Kyle Shanahan doesn't want backs in the backfield who are just buying time, waiting to hit that hole like a Saquon Barkley or a LaShawn McCoy. Ty Davis-Price, one-cut runner. That's why I kind of like it. Danny Gray, 4.3 speed. Is electric with the football in his hand. Spencer Burford, you address offensive tackle and offensive guard with him coming out of UTSA in round 4. Now let's focus in on Sam Womack here, cornerback out of Toledo, and then specifically Tariq Castro-Fields because it has to do with Jason Verrett coming back. He's going to be able to go up to those guys and be like, you know what? Yeah, I've dealt with some injuries, and maybe to where the expectations were for me being a first-round pick, I haven't lived up to those lofty expectations. But I've been in the league for a really long time, and when I've been able to stay healthy on the field, I'm a really good player. And he can continue to tutor, mentor, and teach a Womack or a Castro-Fields. Now, Womack and Castro-Fields are different players. During his career, Sam Womack was terrific in the collegiate ranks. He had something like 46 pass breakups in 51 games. That's really impressive. And you can't teach ball instincts. You can't teach the early dissection of plays. You can't teach just having overall cornerback instincts. You can't teach size. And he doesn't really have that. But I figure that he is going to play slot. And if he's in that slot, I think he could be a future K'Wan Williams replacement, and he just has a knack for making plays on the football. That's why I like that pick. The area scout was pounding the table for John Lynch to pull the trigger on Womack. That area scout, he got his wish. Tariq Castro-Fields is a different corner as compared to Womack. He's twitchier. He's a little bit faster. He has more size. He's certainly a little bit longer. He's a little bit thin, below the belt. His legs, a little bit tiny. 4.3 speed, though, really long, can thrive in press coverage, 7 pass breakups, pretty good instincts on the defensive side of the ball, and his length, I like how he's able to jam wide receivers at the point of attack. And he also, too, like Womack, has a knack for making some plays. So again, you add to the depth by drafting Tariq Castro-Fields as well as Sam Womack. You don't go after a safety, but through UDFA signings, maybe you found some of your future cats there, and then you bring back Jason Verrett. Worst case scenario, maybe he gets injured again. Maybe he can't come back from that torn ACL, which would really be unfortunate, but you're not paying him a lot of money, and it's a one-year deal, so you're not tied to him financially for many years to come. Before we hop on out of here, appreciate all of you for rocking and rolling with us here on our breaking news video. Grade the Niners roster after the NFL draft. For those of you still watching, I'm going to give you a shout out in the comment section if you give us your grades, A, B, C, D, or F. Appreciate all of you.